In September 21, Ukraine Media Center Ukrinform continues its operation. My name is Svetlana Sheparenko. This night, the enemy committed another act of terrorism. There was a massive strike on a peaceful Ukrainian cities, and now we will be talking about the aftermath of this strike and the work of our brilliant air defense forces. We will be talking with Mr. Yuriy Ignat, spokesperson of the Air Force Command of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. Mr. Yuriy, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Mr. Yuriy, please tell us about the results of the attack. And we see that the strategy of the enemy is a little bit changing. Previously, it was a combined strike with the use of missiles and drones, but now we see that they only launch either rockets or drones. So is it safe to say about the change of strategy of the Russian Federation? I apologize, I'm here in English translation. We're about to rectify it. So what happened today was another attack by the Russians on Ukraine. Yes, there were more missiles launched. It's no news for us. There were attacks like this for a number of times previously, with the same number of missiles launched. So today the result of operation of air defense forces was quite good. 36 out of 42 is a quite a good result, given that the enemy was launching the attack in a number of waves from different directions on different regions of Ukraine. As you know, the work of the air defense forces was at least in 6 regions. Both the mobile fire teams, fighter jets were working along with the air defense artillery systems. Kharkiv region was attacked with S-300 missiles. The mayor said that at least 6 of such guided missiles were used against the regional capital. I don't think I can say something new on top of the reports from our energy technicians that energy infrastructure facilities were attacked. As you know, during the previous attack there was a strike on Kremenchuk oil processing facility, so we may assume that the energy infrastructure facilities will be the targets of the enemy, and we have to prepare to it because the heating season is coming, the autumn is coming, and the enemy may resort to inflicting strikes on such facilities on top of military facilities. Talking about the missiles, they have about 600 high precision missiles. It was mentioned by the General Staff representatives and the representatives of Main Directorate of Intelligence. It's the Kinjal Caliber X555, X101, Iskander M and K types. Those are the missiles that enemy may reach with any corners of our country, plus the loitering drones, the kamikaze drones. The other types of missiles the enemy have are Onyx X-22, X-35, S-300, and guided aviation missiles the enemy uses, like X-59. Such types of rockets or missiles may be used in the areas along the front lines, maybe in the north of our country. Also, the enemy continues using the guided aviation bombs that they target directly on the areas along the front lines. What Ukraine needs, we need to reinforce our air defense forces and wait for F-16s that can provide the advantage for us in the air and reduce the activity of enemy's aviation in the southern and eastern directions. We also wait for the good news from Washington, D.C. about the extension of additional air defense systems. We wait for the good news from Ramstein that will probably give us more opportunities to reinforce our air defense. Specifically, we're talking not about the long-range systems such as Patriot or Iris-T or NASAMS, but also about the small short range air defense that can automatically destroy Shahed drones. We see that the number of attacks using the loitering drones is increasing, and to destroy them efficiently we need efficient and rational air defense systems. Shooting Shaheds down with rockets will result in deficit of such rockets, so reinforcement of all air defense means, including the mobile fire teams. We increase the number of mobile fire teams now due to the needs of repelling of attacks using the loitering UAVs. We've heard some positive news for us. We were targeting facilities in Crimea, Sochi, Saki, and Sevastopol. What is the secret of success, and should we expect for more strikes on the Russian Federation in Crimea? Well, we're talking live now, and our pilots right now are using those types of weapons used by the partners, JDAMs and HARP missiles, the guided aviation bombs, and Scalp and Storm Shadow cruise missiles. Well, everything has its time due. We cannot disclose all the details, but you see the results of operation of our air forces. The two battleships that now follow the way of Moscow cruiser, and there are more strikes, such as infliction of strike on the ammunition depot in Crimea specifically, and it will continue happening. We cannot just defend unilaterally. We have to destroy the enemy. We have to destroy their logistics that supports them, supports their land troops. We have to destroy the headquarters, the military operation facilities, and our pilots do everything they can. They're pushing the envelope basically on the aircraft they're using, but the effect would multiply with F-16 aircraft. Once again, I want to reiterate it. Those should be certain modification of F-16s. They should not be lower in characteristics, because if the characteristics are lower than Su-35, it would not produce some intense effect. We have to gain advantage in the air. F-16 can inflict strikes, the high precision strikes on the land targets. We need it a lot. We can't wait to get this aircraft in our air forces. So talking about F-16, what's going on with the training of Ukrainian pilots? What is the phase of training, and is there any chance such training will be going on more rapidly than it was stated before? Well, let's put it like this. The pilots who have not yet left, I mean the other waves that are going to go to other countries, they already do some homework here. They study English language, they train on the simulators, so everything goes according to the plan. We don't disclose a lot of information about what's going on over there, but the relevant work is being done. We work in consultations with our partners, and the communication will be dosed and without disclosing of some important details, but we do everything possible to make sure that our pilots finish the training as soon as possible. And not only pilots, there is a group of aviation engineers who are training with the pilots to get the knowledge on maintenance of F-16 fixed-wing aircraft. It's a very important thing too, and we in Ukraine take necessary steps to set up the infrastructure. Definitely during wartime, when you are under fire all the time, you cannot do some capital works, but again, we take all reasonable measures to make sure F-16 is used efficiently in Ukraine. Talking about the training itself, the pilots will, well, not only pilots, but also the maintenance personnel will be trained in different countries, in different platforms. This is why the representatives of our government makes visits to other countries and negotiate the expansion of the training centers for our pilots and maintenance teams, because the training airfields, the instructors, they are not so numerous. One center like that cannot accept a big group of pilots, a big team of pilots, and we have to train the most people possible at the same time, so this process happens the most rapid possible. And many countries that have already agreed to join the Aviation Coalition will receive our pilots, and it's very pleasant to state that the United States have joined that coalition. They have the biggest base there that is capable of training pilots, the biggest number of pilots and maintenance personnel. Talking about the Aviation Coalition, how many countries have already joined and how many potential partners still can join this coalition? And for what I understand, we're not only talking about F-16s, though they are a priority, but there are other fixed-wing aircraft considered. Well, obviously they are considered. The commander of the Air Force, Mykola Leshchuk, has already disclosed that information. He visited Sweden, where we focused our attention on Gripen. This is the perspective model sub-company. They have a very good perspective of getting a next generation aircraft that country will switch to, but we also have to think about the perspective, not only F-16, there are F-35s and Gripens of the newer models, but Gripen is a fixed-wing aircraft which is second in priority after F-16 that Ukraine could get. So our commander was studying, well, he was not studying, but he was demonstrating the capabilities of that aircraft, and he took the decision to leave a team of pilots in Sweden to see how long would it take to train them. There is a lot of other nuances. This is why the aviation specialists, aviation technicians who stay in Sweden, they are studying this issue. There are no statements from the representatives of either Sweden or Ukrainian government. Well, you know, many media have already started discussing this, but we're still studying it. Not only F-16, but F-16 will be the main type of battle aircraft commissioned by our armed forces, because we have to gradually decommission the Soviet types of aviation material, because it should be phased out. We cannot have a lot of types of aircraft commissioned, but at the same time as the F-16 start coming, it doesn't necessarily mean that the Soviet types will be decommissioned right away. The situation will be the same as in Poland, where F-16 and MiG-29 were sitting in the same airfields, ensuring the security in their country. Do we have questions on the floor? Good afternoon, Alina Strashko, Ukrinform. Mr. Yuriy, during this night's attack, certain energy infrastructure facilities were damaged in different regions of Ukraine. This is probably the first Russian attack on the energy infrastructure facilities in Ukraine. Is it safe to say that they revert to the attacks on the energy infrastructure facilities in Ukraine? And to what extent is the critical infrastructure of Ukraine is protected against missile attacks? Well, we shouldn't talk about the level of protection of infrastructure, but about the level of protection of the country itself, because 1 year ago we only had Soviet types of air defense like S-125, the land forces air defense systems, but starting from October last year we started getting NASAMS and IRIS-T. Then the numbers started growing, then we got Patriot that is capable of downing Kinjal X-47 missiles, plus short-range air defense systems such as Gepard, Krotal, Avenger. But at the same time, the Soviet air defense systems that were defending us a year ago in September and October, they get exhausted. We're running out of ammunition gradually. Look, what is the amount of the rockets that we spent on downing the UAVs? Hundreds and hundreds of fixed and rotary wing aircraft, thousands of missiles destroyed by air defense forces, plus the loitering Shahed drones. It exhausts not only the ammunition reserve that we look for in other countries, because we don't manufacture either Buk or S-300 missiles. The material is not eternal either. We need new parts, but we have to reinforce our air defense with more modern system. They work like 100%, one rocket, one target. So for example, in case of Buk, we used 2 rockets against one air target, which increases the chances of damage of the target or its destruction. In these new air defense systems, their rockets are used more efficiently. So in answer to a question whether the enemy was targeting the energy infrastructure facilities, we can judge it from the reports of the military administrations. This is the first indicator, but again, 36 out of 42. Fortunately, we did not find out what were the targets of the enemy, all of the targets, because the air defense forces ensured such result. Thank you very much. There is a French editorial, Intelligence Online, who reported that Ukraine may receive the fighter jets Mirage TP, and many media picked this information up. So are we in negotiations, and to what extent it will influence our capabilities, how important it is for us? Well, any help is important for us, but Mirage 2000 is not an option. A-10, how can it help? If Russian air defense destroys it, we need advantage in the air. We need a multi-purpose aircraft that is modern and capable of fulfilling all those tasks that I've mentioned today. What we need is the advantage in the air. We need to push the Russian aviation from the occupied areas and from our borders. We need to inflict strikes on the water and land targets. We need to guard our airspace. We need to destroy the cruise missiles and drones. We need to counter the Russian terrorism. You can read about Mirage 2000 in the open sources. We cannot afford picking up everything from the aviation park. It's not rational and it will exhaust our people. We have to focus on one type, two types maximum. Two types of multi-purpose fixed-wing aircraft capable of fulfilling the tasks I've mentioned. Mirage 2000 is an obsolete model. France has way better aircraft, France and Europe, so we currently consider those aircraft that we talk about. You know, there is a lot in media. There are statements of different leaders of different countries about provision of different weapons that are not always true. Even about the training of our pilots in France, there was a question about it. But there we were talking about the aviation specialists involved in ground support, search and rescue activities. So let's try to communicate the information in a more clear and precise way. There was a statement in the news marathon of the commander of Air Force where he told everything about what Ukraine needs and in what numbers. Mr. Yuriy, thank you very much for your comprehensive answers. I'm reminding you joining us was Yuriy Ignat, the spokesperson of the Air Forces Command of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. We are putting together the schedule for tomorrow, so stay tuned.